Release often is every organization's dream today. They try their best to reach there. In fact, release often, if you consider from developer, you may not understand how important it is. But if you consider from a company perspective, release often means they can beat their competition by going early to the market. And that's why every organization's dream is to release often. And in order to release often, there are a lot of things that you need to do apart from just continuous delivery. It broadly depends on a lot of engineering practices, and that's quite complex area, but people usually misunderstand that, and then they just think that, okay, by going into this kind of cloud, continuous deployment, DevOps pipeline, creating a lot of pipelines will get them there. That is definitely not true. And also there is a second misconception here. So companies will think that by taking in continuous deployment experts, their company is going to get into the continuous deployment immediately on day two. There is a magic pill that is going to be applied and they're going to get into the continuous deployment. That's also wrong. We will see that one by one. This is a broader topic. So in order to have the clarity, we are going to deal one by one. Before we do any activities, let us measure, let us have the right measures. In fact, last week we discussed about this. Harish asked me, Sarish, I have a lot of test cases. Does that guarantee that I'm able to continuously deploy? Or then there is question from somebody else saying that, okay, I'm using Kubernetes where I do this uptime, downtime deployment and all those stuff easily. Do I do continuous deployment? No. Let us make our measurements proper. If you make your measurements proper, then only your task is going to be concrete. Okay. Now let us look at these two things. Very simple terminology. If you are doing CI, which means your feedback should be as quick as possible. For example, if you are making a change, so now if anyone tell you that we are doing continuous integration, okay, if they are doing continuous integration, don't look at the tool set, don't look at the people behind it and all those stuff. Just ask this simple question. I am making a change. How much of the time that you take to give me a feedback, whether my build is successful, if my unit test cases are proper, am I breaking anything integration, regression test cases are proper, tell me the feedback. Whether I have a Git conflict, tell me the feedback. If they say more than, say for example, 5 to 10 minutes max, then you say, no, you don't have it. Simple. Okay, similarly, if someone claims that we are doing continuous deployment, continuous delivery and continuous deployment is different things. We'll have that from a master now. I'll just show you the link. So if they are saying continuous deployment or continuous delivery we are doing, and you just ask how much of time that you take to market, time to market, or how often you release. If they say more than a week, then say no, you don't have it. Okay, simple measurements. Don't even look at the tools, companies, people, how educated they are, nothing. Okay. Now this CI is relatively simple, as we discussed already. So if they don't have feedback, they do not even know what is Maven, Git is doing and all those stuff. That is different things. Now we will target about CD. In order to reach CD, one of the important fact is, let's just take it from the simple real-time use cases. You are running a shop, and then you want to introduce new models, a new model of, say, for example, you're running a mobile shop, and then you want to release a new iPhone model, new OnePlus models to your customers, and your shop is 24/7. And if you say your customer, there is a new iPhone model has come, I need to get the stock into the shop. Can you please stop buying for 5 minutes? And then you say OnePlus, when OnePlus comes here, okay, you say you stop the sales for some time. It doesn't make any sense at all. You're losing your business. Without downtime, how you introduce a new feature, that is called seamless deployment. So seamless deployment is our starting point. When I say seamless deployment, you need to run your shop. At the same time, you need to apply your new features and then seamlessly switch between these two features. And there are a lot of techniques to this. One popular known techniques is blue-green deployment. So when I say blue-green deployment, anything in between, if you are struck, unable to understand, let me know, I'll stop and then clarify it. So in a blue-green deployment, you will have two people. One is always serving to your live customers. If there is a new thing that is coming in, you will parallelly create a new place where you get your new stock, and then you switch saying that, okay, there is a new place that is built completely, you go to the new one. Okay, that switching you need to do. Usually how people will do, for example, if there is a DevOps engineer for you, earlier days, say for example, Thirumurugan is your DevOps engineer, what he will do is he has, say for example, Tomcat server. So he will have the Tomcat server, he will have, say for example, Apache, pointing to this Tomcat instance T1, but then you have new features coming in. So silently Thiru will go and create an instance called Apache is pointing to T1, but then silently Thiru will go and make T2 deploy, verify. Once he is happy, then he will make this Apache pointing to T2. That is what he is going to do. That's what he is doing. This is not a technique that is there now. It is there for quite some time. Okay, without downtime, this is what a DevOps engineer like Thirumurugan was doing. But now what we are going to do is, in an automation world, we are trying to do that through the system itself without a human intervention. So in order to do that, the tools that we take for today's thing is, we take an Nginx. So this is Nginx, which is running in, say, for example, 80. And we have Tomcat instances, that is 8001 and 8002. These are all the Tomcat instances. For simplicity's sake, I have created it in my local. So there are 2 instances. These are all main Tomcat instances, okay? So these main Tomcat instances are serving the customers. But now you want to apply a new feature, okay? So the logic here is, I am going to create a new Tomcat instance. Let's create Tomcat 8000, which is having. So I am going to create a new Tomcat instance at 8000, deploy new software, wait until it starts, and then Nginx to point to my 8000 till I get that new software, and then I start these main servers. Till then the request comes in, it is being served by 8000. So then this request will be served by your main service. This is the infrastructure that we want to create. So to keep it in a simple sense, this is all that we are going to do. It's as simple as this. There is Nginx running, and there is main servers that is already serving your request, and then we are going to just seamlessly switch through a backup server. So that's the idea. Okay. Now let us look at the traffic. So you have a welcome message by your REST API. So it says welcome by main, and then it's the main server that is serving your request now. It's serving from 8001. Now let us look at the new. Let us bring the new software. This is our software actually. So now I'm going to bring a new software. I'm saying welcome to seamless deployment. Now in the seamless deployment. So now I changed the welcome message. Now it's saying welcome to main only. Now I just made a major change to my software. Let us look at how we will do this. Let us test our continuous deployment. Now what is, if you look at the log messages, I try to make the log messages as self-explanatory as possible. So now it's building it. So when it builds it, there's a new artifact that is being created. Once for that, the build should be successful. So it's running Maven build now. Once the build is successful, so there is no test for simplicity's sake. I did not put any tests here. Okay, build is successful. Now it is checking for your backup server, and then it is starting the backup server now. In case if the backup server is already running, it's stopping it. And then it is starting your main servers. But meanwhile, in order to start the main servers, it should stop that server, right? So it's in between, the main servers has to be stopped. So now if you watch this messages here, it's actually still serving from 8001. They are not stopped properly. That's what it shows. It is still coming from 8001. You need to be very lucky in case if it is working. So sometimes it might take some time also. Okay, cool. Lucky, I'm lucky today. Okay. So now you see it is serving from 8000, right? But is 8000 is my main server? No, 8001 is my main server. So what should happen now is, now you see, okay. Now what just happened is, there was a time that the server upgrade was happening, and that time you supported the traffic with your backup server, and then you switched to your main servers now. Now application is live, and this is how seamless deployment in a simple way happens. In case if you have database changes, we already covered that in Flyway, that we will see in the upcoming weeks as we go with this exercise. Basically, the idea is we will consider that we are a small organization, we want to get into continuous delivery mode. We will take one step at a time. So the first and fundamental step, if you want to get into continuous deployment, your deployment should be seamless. That's the idea. And that is what we just see today. We will see the next things later.
Hi Satish. So I have a question. So once we switch from the old server to the new server, so don't we lose any request in between?
You are not, that's okay. So that is done through Nginx. In Nginx configuration, the way that we configure Nginx is, there are multiple solutions to it, but logically, the idea is your backup server, right? That is marked as a backup, which means Nginx will keep sending, see, the request that is sent is sent. There's no problem, because that's why if you look at our deploy script, this is our deploy script.
Okay.
Deploy script, we give an additional parameter. So how much of a grace time that you want to give? So for example, if you are giving 10 minutes of time, the request can be in between processing also. You need to make a calculation. How much maximum time that your request can take. Take the costliest request, take the costliest operation, measure it, give a buffer time, and then wait for that much of time.
Okay.
So the request that is being served, it will wait until the request being served. In fact, if you are using frameworks like Spring Boot, they give you that additional features from application also. So you can say graceful shutdown. When you send a shutdown request to Spring Boot through Activator endpoint, that is being done here in this. If you look at this, we are not simply switching off the process. Instead, we are actually asking Spring Boot to shut down. So here, if you look at this line, we are requesting Spring Boot. So this place will not shut down actually. It's a request for a shutdown. And Spring Boot, as an application framework, it knows how many requests that are being under progress now. It will wait until they are served. And that is what you consider with these parameters. So there are a lot of parameters that you need to consider, but you need to put the checks. That checks is entirely depends on your application logic.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so if it is clear, what is for next week? So just we will note down these points. We will go one by one. So the today's point is this, that if you are doing continuous deployment, the first step, it starts how seamless your deployment is. That is what we just covered. And then next week, we will cover how databases has to be CI/CD.
Satish?
Yes.
I had a question. So basically what happened here is you have started up another application instead of the first one. So you have shut down the first one and you have started the second deployment environment in this example. Am I right?
Instead of shutting down, first I started the backup server. So I kept the backup server ready, but it won't be served because it is marked as a backup server. Your live traffic is still served by the old software from your main servers. But once the backup server is up, I send a shutdown request for my main servers.
Okay.
At that point in time, if the new request comes in, Nginx will route that to the backup server, which contains my new software.
Okay.
Okay. And then once the main server started, I switched off the backup server. Actually, I was expecting a question from audience. Let me see if anybody catched it. I think logically there is an improvement that we can do.
So the switching time is minimal.
The idea is to make that switching time as minimum as possible and make the live servers as quick as possible. We need to update the live servers. Now, let us consider this case. Consider you have a new binary that has come in. You know that, okay, there is a new binary that I'm going to deploy it. Why should I deploy it to the backup server? Rather, when I have the new binary, I will start the backup server. Meanwhile, I'll prepare the release for the new server. So the backup server will serve the old customers as it is, and then it directly gets into your new server without you disturbing you putting the old software to the backup server. That's one optimization that you can do. That is this logical. So once you reach this level, right, these are all the tool sets. You can optimize it as much as possible, but you need to make this deployment time as quick as possible.
Satish, this is Venkatesh here. What I wanted to know is the switching between the servers, right? Like when you said like when we are doing the deployment,
Mm.
it's basically switching to the backup server, or request will be redirected to the backup server.
Mm.
And once the deployment is successful and once the main server is started properly, all the requests are redirected to the main server,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So here, like the process of doing that, we have to write the script explicitly, or is it supported by some plugin?
Okay. In our case, just to keep it minimal, I wrote the shell script myself. Okay, if you are using cloud specific platforms like App Service in Azure, they do it behind the screen for you.
Okay.
So we don't need to do, but even if we do it or the script, someone else is doing it, this is something that has to be done.
Okay. So one more question. I think if we go with the other framework, then that will be handled. Like my question was basically like if there are some active request which is being served by the backup server, main server is back up again. So in that case, we have to wait until all the requests are served by the backup, and only then we have to redirect the request to the main server.
Yes.
Okay.
Frameworks can help you to some extent, but ultimately you need to be very, very cautious because each request matters to you. It's all about how critical your application is. Sometimes people might given saying that, okay, 1 or 2 requests might fail if it is an event streaming service. But if it is a main service, then that time is crucial. You will take each and every piece, but it depends. Ideally, you should be very careful of not losing even a single request. So give more time. Because you consider this continuous deployment is not going to happen through your main service, right? You can have even serverless functions for this, Spot instances. So it's not going to be costly. Instead of 5 minutes, even if it takes 1 hour, you can just wait for that. No problem. So that's all from me this week, guys. Because these topics, I don't want to cover it at a stretch. We'll take it one by one. Next week, we'll see the continuous deployment with more realistic cases. Thanks.